All right, and welcome everybody to I believe this is our 15th Terran Tuesday. It's been a little while since we had the entire gang here, but we are all here. How you guys doing today?
Hello,
Woohoo!
hello.
Hello,
Wow,
hello. Howdy, howdy.
it's
Oh,
been a
what a
long
good girl.
time.
Are you sad? I know. Look at how long it took us.
What, 4 weeks,
Mm,
I
But
think?
here we
Four-ish
are
weeks?
now.
yep,
But
pretty much.
the good news the good news is that James really nailed it every time. We had fantastic uh guest panelists. Who all did we have? We had Frederick Griant. We had Maji Chan of Maji Chan fame. We had Herman. Did we have Herman Hunter one day?
Yeah, we had
We
Herman.
had
He was up in here for a little bit.
Yes,
that. He's very
nice.
famous, the famous author. Yeah, we had. Who else? Who else am I missing, James?
Let's see. I know we had one other, but the name's not coming to me right now.
No, I'm gonna
It'll
forget.
come.
No.
It'll come to
Oh,
me sooner or
man
later.
behind the screen.
There
It
you
was a
go,
Yep,
man
man
yep,
behind
on
the
the
screen.
yep,
screen.
yep.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking.
Hey,
Yes.
Excellent
So
guests. We had wonderful guests, returning guests as well. We have a
probably,
lot of
probably
great
the
people
author
out there.
too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're
who is
breaking
that?
up a little bit there, Black Knight. What was it?
Uh, Probably the author too.
Oh,
You're really
Otter.
robotic there.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Was the Otter on with us?
Yep.
Yes, Otter.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we had
Otter was also
Otter.
one.
Yeah, because I was so
Mm.
sick, I missed a couple of days. I actually wasn't even able to listen. I was so sick. Oh my gosh, I had the summer plague. It's so bad.
So,
I was sniffly and it was coughing. It was so sad. I had to drink hot tea and everything. But now I'm better. Yay.
that's good.
Although I may have to leave a
Excellent.
little early today because I'm just now getting over it. So it's like boo. But anyhow, no, I'm so glad to be back. And I'm so proud of James. He did such a good job. Look at his little shiny face. So
Oh
sad.
boy, I had plenty of help. With the great guest panel we had. They were excellent across the board. They helped me keep the conversation lively. So it really helps to have
Yes.
just a lot of interesting people out there willing to lend their voice.
Oh, I know.
Excellent.
And you had watchers too. I saw that. You had
Yeah.
viewers and comments and everything.
Well, it's
I
a
I
shared
am
show.
not yet like I'm not yet to a point where I can watch all of them, but I will watch them. Um,
Yay.
I was
It'll take some time.
yeah, I was doing some after I came back home. I was doing some research,
Mm.
like
You're
reading
really
because
breaking up right there. Can't really make
really
out what you're saying.
um, because my on my side my internet is fine.
Yeah,
I don't
Okay.
know.
I'm
I
hearing
don't
Black
know.
Knight. Okay.
You're
Yeah,
hearing am I right? Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm wondering if it's on my end. You know what? Let
It
me.
it might be.
You guys continue the conversation. Let me disconnect and reconnect. See if something might be
Yeah,
happening.
Okay, cool.
check your router or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
So tell us a Bulgaria story, Black Knight. The
mm,
hamstring. Tell us an awesome Bulgaria story that you had happen to you over the last 4 weeks while you were gone.
well, I made friends with
Oh,
a couple of cats.
did you
Um,
really?
it's at my parents' place while I was there, and because like it wasn't that hot, but like some days it was, and like the rest of the time we kind of uh, ch- took strolls around the
Uh huh.
place, and there were two cats,
Oh,
neighborhood cats, and one of them because there is a small um, playground for the kids, and they have these like toys and stuff, and one of the cats likes to play with the kids, and they quote unquote drive the cat around in like the toy trucks and
oh,
stuff,
that's so cute.
and and they have like these what are they called, like uh, oh come on, forgot the word. but but like, long story short, I just um went around, like got a couple of beers, and we sat like on a bench, and I just called one of the cats, and he came, and we had a nice chat. As you know, I know catties, and also
Oh yeah.
hamsteries and doggies and whatever. So we had a nice chat. We had a nice chat. Um, the kids were like really intrigued, because I kind of
Uh-huh.
made it look like that we were having like a nice long conversation. And I
Oh
told
my
them,
gosh.
I told them a story, like a short story about the adventures of that cat, which I kind of improvised it um,
Oh my god. You need
while
to
I
put
was
this in your book.
waiting. No, it's just, I
You
don't know.
must.
Maybe if I write like a second child's book, I may
Or
put
put
it
it on
like
your
that.
Substack. Put it on your
Um,
Substack. It'd be perfect.
maybe
The
maybe I will.
Adventures
I
of
don't know.
Mr. Cat.
But it's like super. It was super short because I was waiting
Uh-huh.
for another print, and um, I was just like sitting there for a couple of minutes. So yeah. Uh, so it was nice, a short distraction,
Uh-huh.
and I wish I hadn't like had the short tumble down the stairs, but I did.
Oh no.
So we have to like sometimes in our lives things happen and we have to deal with it. So yeah.
RH Snow disconnected. Maybe we should be reconnecting
Yeah.
right now. Bit of a
Are you having the same issue, or you can hear me well?
I can hear you fine. If I do have that issue, honestly, I'll just pull up the stream. I'll be like a second behind, but I can hear you fine. Right?
Yeah,
I'll hop on.
it's weird because that place where I went, like they have abhorrent internet connection. Um,
Ah,
it was bad, like really, really bad. So bad that you couldn't even open like a short YouTube video.
Oh
You
no.
had to wait like for a couple of minutes for it to load a bit.
Wow.
It was terrible.
yeah.
I had forgotten, like really, really forgotten how bad internet looks like, and that gave me an idea about another story which I can write, set in my universe. But like, no, I'm not gonna spoil anything about it. It's gonna be about lag. It's going to be titled Lag,
Oh,
and
that's a great story.
it will be short fiction, like really short. It's
Yeah, but
been
that's
a long
perfect.
time since I've written like anything that short.
It'll be perfect.
Probably.
It'll be an awesome story.
Yeah, I know.
With a cat.
I have a pretty nice short story like that. You just reminded me
Oh
of that. I have
really?
to retrofit for my world. It's all done mostly. It's kind of like one of those stories you just got to get out of you. So I wrote it real quick. And
Oh
didn't
yeah.
even bother to fix anything. Just threw it aside. Like, all right, that's done. But I thought, you know what? I should retrofit that into my world later. Fix it up, and it's relatively short. I think it's like 5,000 words. So
Yeah, I've
Ah,
got one that I did that's just Mars needs cows. I started the first part of it with Emulia going up to the X to Starlink and then going up into space with it, and she's a cow. She's just a cow. And so I'm sending her into space. So I've got to write the second part of that, but I'm right now right in the middle of trying to illustrate. Hellbilly Highway, so I've got to get that done. And then I got sick, and it's like really hard. I can draw when I'm sick. That part's not a problem. I think it's because like if you have a lot of cold medicine, you're like, oh, this is really cool and trippy. But when you try to write, it's like then you write something really weird, like with an octopus in it or something, and that doesn't work out. So that
Ooh,
part's not ideal.
it's weird that you say octopus because I don't know if I told you, but there is something in Star Shutter, the Star Shutter universe, which a couple of my players created while they were playing the TRPG, and it's a creature called the Octo Chicken,
Oh my gosh! Okay, we
which
need to.
is like ultra hilarious creature that I wove it into the universe's lore because it was so funny, and they thought so much about it, and it's basically a combination between an octopus and a chicken. so, so it can live in the water and it can also live on the land. So
Does it
um,
have 8 tentacles, or does it have an octopus head and wings?
it has tentacles instead of wings.
Sweet.
Um, it's 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 cute, but it's the size of a like it's a bit bigger than a normal chicken. It's like, let's say, turkey big, maybe, yeah, something like that, like a big turkey. And on some planets, while they are terraforming them, they have these like they raise these octo chickens
Ooh.
because they kind of like their survivability is so great, and they are vicious. Like they have the teeth in their beaks. Like their beaks are full of teeth, and they can use the tentacles to slap predators around.
Oh my God.
And they're omnivores. They eat meat too.
Everyone should run.
So I mean, if you grow them, they will not attack you. But if you raise them, I mean, but let's say some predator comes around, like some snake, they will eat it.
Oh my
They
God.
will they will eat the snake. It's like the snake is screwed. And they're pretty like sustainable. They like I said, they're omnivores. They can find their own food. They have high resistance to disease, to poison even. And they when they go to like when you raise them on another planet, they will try like little bits, like they will nibble on some plants and see how poisonous the plants are for them. So yeah, you can pretty much like let them go, and grab one of them from time to time to eat.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the octo chicken for you.
All right, I may have to draw the octo chicken.
That sounds like a
Yeah,
very interesting creature.
it's insanely hilarious. I mean, when they came to me, these players, when they came to me with that, and I kind of immediately thought of different stories I can, little like tiny stories I can write to expand the fluff about this, which reminds me of the theme of this Terran Tuesday, which incidentally would be different character archetypes that we were inspired by, or we personally like to write in our stories. How
That's
about we how about we start with um, you, Snow?
who me? Okay.
Yep,
Well, I
yep.
was actually thinking about this.
Ladies first.
No, thank you. That means I have to come up with all the ideas. Good job. Good job. I don't have anything as cool as Octo Chicken, so I can't help any of us. But the way one thing I was thinking about when James said this today, I was like, who would I talk about? Because one of the most interesting character arcs to me and it's actually the category of character arcs. We talk a lot in pulp fiction and science fiction about men reading, whether or not they're still reading. And this came up last week, where men don't read anymore, and that was like such a lie because we know that men do, but they just don't want to read boring garbage. Well, one of the things that came up was the character arcs of that. A lot of the characters that they like, some people call them flat arcs. The character is always the same no matter what. You always get the same guy. He's going to be who he is, and whether it's Conan being Conan or Batman being Batman, they may be complex characters, but they have a flat arc. They don't really grow. You don't see them differently. Or in the case of, and I was thinking of what's an example of a person with a character arc that's a little different, and that would be the movie Unforgiven, with Clint Eastwood in it as the main character. And one of the things I wanted to discuss was the fact that masculine male characters that are dependable, reliable, and are predictable aren't necessarily flat arcs. They are making a determination to be a certain kind of person. Just because you decide I am this person, I have my same values, I will believe this thing, doesn't mean it's a flat arc. The opposite of maintenance is entropy. And so I was like, you would go downhill, you just wouldn't do anything. But these men go out, they are active, they keep on doing what they're doing, they fight wars, they fight battles, they fight crime, they go out and they shoot up a town, but they do it because they are doing it for a reason, and they maintain themselves as an entity. So I'm thinking, it's not that men want a flat character. It's not that they don't want any character development. They want to know that a person has achieved the character they would like to keep, and then they have to fight to keep it. And when you look at those characters from that perspective, you start realizing Conan constantly battles with, he's constantly faced with a decision to join the dark forces, or to become one of these people, or to give up completely. And he doesn't. He rises through the ranks. He comes from being a barbarian, just on the rank and file, and becoming a general and becoming a king, and then going back to going out and adventuring. And so when we look at him from that perspective, he's not he's not resting on his laurels or just a flat character. He has to decide he wants to be this person and stay that person. That is a character arc. It is just in some ways a uniquely masculine character arc. I don't think that, I think there actually are feminine examples of it. We just have a tendency to pretend like they're boring because a woman decides that she wants to do this thing, or she wants to be a mother, or she wants to be a businesswoman and have her own business, or she wants to do go out in the world and do charity work, and she maintains that like Mother Teresa did. Or you have these people that they reach a goal and then they live their lives trying to be that person. Is not flat. That's nothing flat about that. And I think that wanting to read about those people that are trying to be their very best self, and they know how to do it, isn't boring. It can be fascinating if you know how to write it. And it certainly is not something to just deride because men enjoy a character that knows what he's doing and what he wants.
Yeah, what you just described. One of my teachers called this maintaining the core of the character.
Yes.
Which is never. It's like it can be written a bit boring, but if you write it, it's like, even with average competence, it's always interesting to read, because it's when you achieve a goal, when you reach a certain level, character wise, you have to maintain it, because if you don't, you will regress. And we all know that those who deconstruct the heroic character archetypes, they use this, like they use almost like a violent form of regression to deconstruct the heroic archetypes. Let's say lately I've watched, I think it was like a very old samurai series, and there was like a teacher there, a samurai, and like it wasn't a monk, it was a samurai, and he was teaching little kids, and he was telling them that he was reading from a book about Confucian, like Confucianism. I can't talk.
Okay. Yes, Confucian.
Confucianism. So he
Sorry,
was,
you're doing great.
yeah, he was telling them that they have to maintain, like, if they stop learning, if they stop um, teaching themselves and maintaining their knowledge, it's like, he gave this vivid description of a cart that you like. They're pushing a cart up a slope, and if they stop pushing the cart will just like roll down the slope and it will crash, and they will have to like fix the cart and load it up again and start pushing it up the slope, like from the base of the hill or something. And it was a great analogy. So
No, I think that sounds fantastic. And James, what have you got? Because I know that I think you were reading that online last week too, where men just don't read. They don't want to do it. And so much of it has to do with these characters where you introduce a character and they love them. Immediately you have to change everything about them, that they're going to find out that they were really wrong and that they really should be, shouldn't be fighting, or they shouldn't be doing something. And they abandon the quest that you give them to become a person that doesn't do it. And while it's interesting to watch characters grow, sometimes these aren't the things that we need in our lives. We don't need somebody that just changes on a dime. Sometimes we're looking for the hero to become even more of the hero, and in whatever way that he does. What do you think about that, with James, with your work and the way you're writing your characters?
I definitely write my characters with a lot of complexity, but I think that's also like an issue we often face with a lot of the new media that people pull from. Because a lot of it does often have a lot of complexity, but often it's what I call sloppy complexity, where they want their characters to be deeper than they are, but then they kind of like
they overdo it.
They overdo it sometimes. Yep. Sometimes they don't do it right. Sometimes, like I said, it's sloppy. It's almost contrived. You can see the writer's hand.
Forced.
That's one thing I try to. That's one thing I try to hide in a lot of my writings, is the writer's hand. I want it to seem as natural as possible. And a lot of the new contrived stuff either makes the heroes too villainous and the villains too sympathetic, and it's almost become a brand new formula. Where I think what would be very refreshing for the time is honestly to just go back to that static, stoic character that just is. The one that comes to my mind right off the bat is almost like a Solomon Kane type, where, he just is Solomon Kane. This is him. His whole motivation is to slay evil for the sake of it, basically. And that's enough to keep him on his journey. And there's almost not much beyond that when it comes to the character. He's just a almost this unapologetic gothic force of good that
order.
That stands good. Yeah, of good, of order. I think that's like the best way to put it, is like this unapologetic force of good. And that may be something we're missing now, is we no longer have that good versus evil story. It's this weird mashup, is evil is not so evil, good is not so good. But
that's the moral relativism of these commies.
Yes.
Well, that's the same back. It was the same back in the day when I was growing up. It's like, it's there is no pure good and no pure evil, but only the party can tell you. Like, listen to your political officer. He or she, they will tell you how to take, comrade.
Well, and I think that we see it where you're talking about. You start off with good and evil, and they centrifuge them towards the middle. That's not how centrifuge works. They mix them toward the middle, where everything's blurred in the end. Nobody knows what's real.
Yeah. That's where the sloppiness comes from.
Yeah,
and then what ends up happening for a lot of these is you end up not liking any of the characters.
Yes, right.
Yeah, because they suddenly like they become gray. It's like one sloppy gray blob, and it's like, ugh.
Yeah, because if you don't like anybody, you don't have anyone to root for. With at least classic heroes and villains, sometimes you wanted to root for the villain, for the sake of it. You know, sometimes you'd have a nice suave villain, but at the end of the day, he was pure evil.
Yeah, and he has to have some. There's got to be some reason that yes, you can still think that's an intriguing villain. There are villains that we just love to watch. They're still villains. We still know they're probably going to get their comeuppance. We know there's something's going to happen. There are people that if they redeem themselves somehow, that's actually called redemption. It's not, hey, they're sympathetic, so let's just go ahead and let them be what they are. There's sometimes a redemption arc that will occur.
That's what they try to do with a lot of them is the redemption arc, but unfortunately, they really
fail.
But
they fail at it.
Because it's not redemption. It's just it's just victimization, which is a different thing. Oh, poor me, I was sad is not redemption. Redemption actually means I throw down what I'm doing and I become a hero instead. I'm going to save the people that need to be saved. That does occasionally happen, but in the case of Watcher of the Damned, we took it backwards. We have people that, as our story starts, our hero is not necessarily he's stuck in a bad place. He's in that gray area, not because he's a bad person, but because his life circumstances have put him in this place of trying to be more than he is, and he feels like he's stuck, he's failing, he's stagnant. As the centrifuge of life takes a hold of him, our heroes and villains become more and more evil as everything starts to become clearer. And goodness has to arise in the Watcher, otherwise he will become evil. He has to decide he is going to be good. And his character arc goes towards becoming more and more of the hero until at last he's able to attain who he was really supposed to be all along. But we have time to do that with it. He's still the Watcher. He's still the killer. He still kills people because that's what he does. But in this case, he kills men who need killing. And some people would look at that as somewhat of a villainous arc. It isn't when you look at the world from the perspective of, in my case, a 4'11" woman who've had sometimes to fight to keep from getting hurt by somebody else. When you really wish, you have to be in a place in your life where you go, I wish somebody strong had saved me. I wish somebody decided they would step up and help me from that person.
That's one of the things that it kind of like they pushed it away, and they specifically targeted it in especially in young men, that they shouldn't they shouldn't act. They should be placid, detached. It's like yes, like modern women, they're strong and independent. It's like they don't need your help. They don't need any man. Like it's fine. And then when actual bad things happen, it's like but where are the men? Like what happened?
Because in fact, we explore this in Watcher of the Dam, where the heroine, Rose, is coming out of a place where the only real predators are actually men. There's any men that are bad. And so they learn how to sort of keep themselves separate. They're told they can sort of depend on themselves, little bitty people, and they protect each other. And at the same time, they respect the men, and there's a truce sort of between the two. But she's been taught the same thing. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. You're taught that by people. When the wolves teach sheep that don't be afraid of us, there's a problem.
Oh,
and
yeah.
sheep and so not all women are sheep. I have women in my family that are warriors that have gone to war, but they also have a different personality. Even they know. I had one of them talk to me the other week that literally, yes, there's a point where you go, I wish I had some dude walking the street with me, because I know for a fact they look bigger and meaner and tougher. That's why guns are the great equalizer, and we love them so much in Texas. I can pull out my little pistol.
Yeah.
But I have to be prepared. But for women to say this, when we say, remember, women are being taught this just like men are too. They're being taught, oh, you don't need anybody. You don't have to be afraid, or you should be afraid, but you need to handle it. You're literally telling the ones who would be the heroes to stand down. You're telling them they shouldn't help. And then you tell women that they're the villain. If they try to help you, that's really a villain. If he holds the door for you, if he tries to save you from somebody, he's a villain. You're lying to the people about what is heroic and what is good. And that is a wrong thing. And so you have to decide what is good in your universe and what is evil. And then you have to take, if you want a protagonist, you take the protagonist towards what you say is good. Now, every author has a different idea of what's good or evil. Probably at some level, there's a little minute differences. But there are authors that strongly believe that a person that does what we would call bad things under a Judeo-Christian system is a good thing. They believe that chaos and just going out and living your life and rape, murder, and mayhem is great as long as you feel good about yourself. They're going to write a character where that's the hero, or the villain becomes the hero. Or there's people that, well, you should really not be ever violent. And that's why we have so many heroes that lay down their sword and they won't fight anymore. And they really don't. They don't just pretend to give up fighting. They don't just do it because they're old. They do it because they think it's a wrong thing. And we're all going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. And then the villain will turn, oh, we're okay because you finally stopped fighting us. That's never been or worked. It's never been the way that there are times when you can literally go over and you can make peace with someone. It's because there's a core of goodness in that person. When you lay down your weapon and you go, hey, you know what? I'm your friend. I've never been your enemy. Why are you coming after me? They'll tell you. And if it really is, there was a mistake or something, that person, if they have a core of goodness, they would listen. That's not really a villain. That's a person.
That's an honorable opponent.
Yes,
that's someone with values, with core values. Like you can't actually like all of these moral relativists. They don't realize that we actually have real evil in the world. Let's say the human trafficking and such. Like these are not people you actually want to even talk to. It's
yeah, I understand what you're saying. At some point we have to say slavery is evil. Therefore, a person that's supporting slavery is supporting evil. Are underage, as one headline called it, underage sex workers. They're not. They're children being trafficked. They're children who are being raped and trafficked. Those children aren't sex workers. They're being raped and trafficked. That is evil. Therefore, if a person says that's okay, then that person is supporting evil. We have to be able to say what we know is evil and good. And these are the reasons we have stories. This is the reason the literature and myth and music and storytelling has defined good and evil in the popular mind since the very beginning. Fiction is not a construct of the modern age or of the patriarchy or anything else. Fiction is designed to tell the stories that need to be told so society can know what is good and what is evil, what it supports and what it doesn't. And there is a common thread among the heroic stories all the way back of people that set slaves free, who set people loose from their chains, who protect the innocent, who stop big people from beating up little people, who stop grown adults from killing children. There are people out there that have been good since the dawn of time. We know what good is. It's time for us to stop apologizing for what we believe is good. And it's time for us to stop apologizing for saying some things are evil. The murder of the innocent is evil. Rape of children and women and men is evil. It is wrong to do these things. It is okay for me to say it is wrong. And it's okay for me to say I want a hero who does what is right. And it's okay for me to write those stories. And we need to be able to stand up and say that. And it's very hard sometimes because people want to make us feel bad. We're saying what is obvious. And
how dare you, you racist Nazi. How dare you say how dare you say that?
I can literally go to I can go to any continent, and James probably knows this. You can go to any continent, you can go to any culture, and there is a story about what we have just said is good. The protection of the innocent, the respect of the contract between men and women to support and love each other, to the idea of freedom is in every culture. I have not seen a single culture that did not have at some point a story that supported what we call good. To suddenly pretend that this is a construct of the West is not only patriarchal, it is also colonistic. It is a colonizer's ideal that only the West ever had this idea. It is a stupid thing to say. Goodness exists. It is real. People have talked about it since the dawn of time. Every form of any character, we can see it going back through all the cultures. There is something there that says this is good, to love innocent life, to protect it, and to respect each other as human beings. That's goodness.
Indeed, even in let's say, since you gave the example of Watcher of the Damned, uh, I always like to give that example from my own work, which is one of the not cozy, totally and cozyless cultures, the Tazarans, um, who in most cases they will happily sell others if that would further their um, goals. They would even sell themselves into like indentured servitude, be it in the army or navy or whatever. They would sell themselves. But even they have like a set of iron principles. For example, the Tazarans, they would like even the lowliest Tazaran, like even some of the dumbest Tazarans, even they know that like selling your own soul to the unlife, like for some ephemeral gain or some quote unquote power, they know that this is bad. This is really really bad, and nothing good will come out of it. Um, and they never do it. They never do it, and they are bad. Like the Tazarans are, they're not good at
Yeah.
all. But even they have like these, and there are a couple more. Let's say when it comes to fighting, they would use rather insidious strategies, but they will never use bioweapons. They will never do it.
Uh-huh. The idea of moral of the moral warrior, of the noble warrior, is real. It has existed. Like I said, we've talked about this. A lot of people, there is the opposite side, which is you do what you have to do to protect your loved ones, you whatever it takes. But the noble warrior has certain ideals, and he will stick with them, including to defeat the enemy at all costs, but not at the cost of his soul. And that means that he knows that he's not going to just torture a person. He's not just going to go in and try to cause needless pain, have suffering of individuals that have nothing to do with it, to keep collateral damage as little as possible. And
That's
that's what makes the hero the
one
hero.
of the things really important when you said like about the collateral damage is that when you fight when you're a hero and when you fight the bad guys or gals, whatever, is to be even-handed and recognize that there are people who have been caught between the hammer and the anvil,
Yes.
and they've been coerced, maybe threatened, tortured. Their family members have been threatened, or and they've been forced into like helping the villains, doing their bidding, like maybe not killing, but let's say providing them with information, supplying them with stuff, doing whatever like mundane tasks that the villains themselves are like, oh, I don't want to do, like I don't want to, let's say, guard these prisoners over there. I'll just threaten this cop. I'll kidnap his little son and tell him to behave, or I'll just like sell his son or something somewhere, and the cop will be forced to obey me. And it's like, yeah, that's one of the aspects that a lot of like modern day um, moral relativists they don't even think about it.
No, I think that uh, that kind of character act where we talk about the tortured soul, the tortured warrior, the one that is doing something against his will, but is doing it for a good reason. And actually, this is how you control populations. How it's much of communism was achieved, and other dictatorships as well. Is that when you move in and you say, okay, that's how you take the hostages. Basically, the families become the bargaining chip. What you love, what you believe is good. Now you must do evil in order to protect the good, and that is a story in and of itself. How does the how do you set those men and women free when they are trapped in that bondage of I must do this thing or something I love, the things that are good will be taken from me. And it will be my fault because I didn't protect them, I didn't save them. The cartels work under much that same assumption. Anywhere that evil exists, it will attempt to turn people that are good from what they are doing. And if they cannot corrupt them at the cellular level through their soul, it will corrupt them by threatening what they love. And there is a difference in that person. That person is not necessarily the villain. That person becomes villainous by virtue of their actions towards others in order to protect what used to be good to them. And once again, that is a tough place to be. And it actually needs to be explored more in literature because it happens frequently in real life where people will go out and they will take a job. Women famously, I had a mother in my one of my classes who was a stripper. I was teaching in an inner city school, and she was young, and she had had a baby, and the baby was now in my classroom. It was 4 years old, and she's stripping for a living. So it doesn't make her a villain, but men came knowing that she was pretty, that they could offer her $1,000 a night, and as she said, I could get a job that I would make $700 a month, or I could have $1,000 a night to help my baby, and I still get help from the government and all this stuff. And she was trying to make a living. She's not a villain. Will force you over a barrel. You're going to do this thing because this is better for your child, or this is what's really good. We lose a portion of our soul. The truth is, I've been in the same situation. I wasn't really pretty enough for a lot of people to come up and talk to me, but as a single mother, I made a decision that I would take a job that got a lot less money than what I could have gotten from doing a lot of things that probably would have sold my soul. Asked my daughter 30 years later, she thinks I made the right choice.
Yeah.
But that's when we make our decisions, and it's a tough place to be.
Oh, it's
And I
really
think
tough.
if we wrote
It's
about it,
really
it would help other people in that same situation.
Yeah, that's I knew a couple of people who they were threatened to let's say snoop around and be tattletales
Yeah,
for like the secret police back in the day, and they would spy on their neighbors, and they would be offered like some like monetary compensation for that, but in some cases they were like outright threatened because of some slate they some way they some thought crime
yeah,
they committed, and it's like the secret police was like, yeah, of course, if you don't want to go, if you don't want to be sent to this camp, or if you don't want to like your wife to be interned, etc., etc., so you'll behave, like you will do what we say. And this is classic uh, villain behavior. They will always do it, always resort to it, because this is their like parasitic nature. They have to do it because they otherwise they cannot exist. They do not create, they only destroy, subvert, and just be the parasites that they are. So uh, yeah, that's always a good thing when we can weave this aspect of like this sad aspect of real life into our stories. And if any of you ever reads that novella that I included in my second anthology, like the bonus
yeah.
novella, which is titled "The Blood of Tyrants."
Ooh.
It's there is a novella inside. Um, it's the Outlaw Raider novella.
Ooh.
It's actually set in uh, well, I can't call them communists, but they operate in a similar manner. That's like an authoritarian dictatorship, huge bureaucracy, which they have their tendrils into your every aspect, like the every aspect of your life, and they have total control, complete surveillance. If they want, they can even read your thoughts. They have like um, special drugs they can inject you with, and you will tell them everything. So there is like a character who is like he commits a thought crime, and he's then given a choice between execution or like doing something for the government. I'm not going to spoil it, but he chooses to do that thing for the government, to keep his family safe,
Yes.
and it kind of battles out of control after certain things happen in the very beginning of the novella. But suffice to say, the the government, they kind of, as they almost always do, they make a mistake. They kind of, they're not they're not as they um, think themselves to be, or the image that they project about themselves, that they are all powerful, all knowing, that they're everywhere, they can control everything. It's not actually, it's never actually like the 100%, although they have like a huge apparatus, like control, command and control apparatus. But there are always some little things that escape that grip. That iron grip was the same under communism. Um, it's just that the level of technology in this story is like much higher. But the principles are the same, and the characters, they have similar motivations. Um, the bureaucrats, of course, they they are doing pretty much the same. They don't care about anyone or anything else but their own careers. It's like, we have to advance our careers. We have to use every um, dirty trick that is like available in our arsenal to advance our career, like nothing else matters. Just like they did back in the day, and just like they're doing it now. So if you have a chance, read that. It's
Oh, yes.
acclaimed, highly acclaimed, um, by all the readers who already read it, and it does explore exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah,
That
send me a link of it, and I'll put it in the top comment when the stream is over.
okay?
That's fantastic. Um, I think that when we're looking at that, when you're talking about your, for instance, your story, and we see these people put in those positions, and we're talking about this from a perspective of character arcs. We talk about there's an arc that actually is for the, we have protagonists of a story, the person that we're seeing the story through the eyes. Whether it's Elric of Melbourne, is he actually a hero? He may not be heroic in that respect, but he has heroic traits. Or we have a person like, for instance, in George Orwell's 1984, where Obviously, he's not heroic in the respect that he overturns anything, but he is the protagonist. He becomes victimized. Each story has its own purpose, and you don't necessarily always have a heroic storyline. Great stories don't necessarily have a hero in them. However, when we're talking about it in terms of fantasy and science fiction, and the trends towards the character arcs that have been used in the last 10 years, we're looking more towards victimization in that
We
respect. The character,
propagating it. They're propagating it. Yeah.
yes, where the character, the heroic character always inevitably becomes changed and melds into the grayness of the world around him. He becomes absorbed by the world, or beaten down by it, or changes his tone to where he's no longer this individualist who's trying to change the world, but instead just becomes a part of it and just moves through. And while that is a storyline in itself, you're right, it has become cliche. And I think James, and you've done it, of course, Star Shatter, with Star Shatter, but James with his Worlds Without End, you have so many different kinds of heroes and so many different kinds of characters in your worlds. Do you find yourself using some of those different kind of like arcs, like the moving towards the grayness, moving out of grayness, becoming a part of the world? Do you see yourself using different ones?
Definitely. There's a lot of them. I got the basic hero's journey arc. That's always a lovely one to play around with. I think one that I often, or two that I often play with, because a lot of these characters are very serialized or episodic. They're supposed to be coming back a lot. So a lot of the time, their story arcs are mostly static in nature, or like hidden depth, all about digging deeper into the character and getting to know that character, rather than kind of expanding outside into the world, digging into that character. One of them is called Henry Lime, who you're introduced to as a hard-boiled detective who's part of a secret society in an otherwise completely corrupt city, or if you're non-corrupt, you're the one who's hiding underground. And that's
Yep.
his secret society. They're a secret society of do-gooders from across the city who go out there to try to foil the corporations who try to take away what little freedom they have left by essentially having a large assortment of spies in every other corner who are giving them information. And this character, it's very story driven, but as you go, you start unraveling him. He's introduced as the guy with the fedora, the brown overcoat, completely dressed nicely, and then you start finding out things about this character you otherwise wouldn't. And that's one way that I like to do, is just dig deep into a character. Another one kind of touches on what we're talking about, and that is the corruption of a character, the corruption arc. A character who's a do-gooder, completely neutral, doesn't know what's going on, and slowly he just gets destroyed and built back up by greed or want, lust, seduction, all of this. And I have a few characters who go through that arc, and I really just have so much characters. They kind of explore a whole lot of them. But I think the number one arc that I focus on probably the most is the in-depth character arc. I have another character who follows that arc, but is mixed in with a lot more tragedy. And he's one that I have yet to introduce, called John the Guardian. And he's essentially a horrifically disfigured character who wears this mask that looks that's made of a bunch of dead twigs and vines and stuff all curled together. And when he breathes through the mask, it makes this horrific noise, and it's all made for intimidation. But everybody in this particular lawless area of land knows John the Guardian, because he'll come defend you. But the thing is, he's so hideous, people don't want to be around him unless they need him. And his story arc is all about the tragedy of this lonely hero. And he's like, alone on the top of the mountain. But then, one of the things at the end of the first story, which you won't probably read for a while, so I'll share it here, is when he's in that struggle point. These people don't want me, but without me, they're almost lost. And then it's not until the children of the village call to him and accept him for who he is, that he stands up tall and he realizes the adults may fear me, but the children know of my nature and they do
That is
not
so
fear
cool.
me. Yeah, and he
That's
holds his head up high because and I take that exact storyline and I twist it somewhere else and here and there, and I could go on for a while about all these different characters with these short arcs that I hopefully will have time to introduce and write, because there is really a load of them, and that is a compact version of an otherwise complex story. Because think about that arc of writing a character alone, waiting for the bandits, receiving maybe some goods from people who leave him there so he can nourish himself, but he is ultimately alone. You really got to do a lot of digging there. And that's one thing, that's why I'm kind of taking that story and putting it aside,
Yeah.
because I need to, you need to almost incubate some of your stories and live life, gain experience, write more, become a much more experienced human being, an experienced writer, and then tackle these stories. And I think that's what we're dealing with a lot, is these new writers do want to tackle these very gray stories, but there's really not too much to them, and they're often in a system that actively turns everything into a formula that needs to be repeated. So it's
Y-
almost like you're trying to show all this human expression, but you can't, because everything has to be formulaic, safe to a degree, not
well,
too edgy, not too out there.
yeah.
And then it's being written on top by people who really they don't know these things personally, or have experienced them, or have even dug into enough literature of this type, and where you can truly sort of understand on a deeper level what kind of character you're writing.
and
Well,
they
and I think
they don't even want to like interview or communicate with people who had similar experiences. And yeah, that's why in most cases when they try to do it, it comes out fake, and it's it's boring.
well, because it
Just
becomes a
boring.
lecture. It's
Yeah.
a story about what I think you should do. Here's you, and you should do these things. You think you're a hero. You should turn instead into this gray person that mixes with the society around you. Now, what James? It sounds like you're almost making like these vignettes, like a slice of deep dish pizza. You've got this really deep character. It's a small slice, but the character and the story goes very deep, and you have this sort of this portrait of a human being where in this little piece of world where you're in, and you're able to take it in that and your snippets, and those vignettes used to be very popular. In fact, we had several books of them in my house, and vignettes are a small portrait. So the character arc's a little different because you're getting it as an idea of where the character is right here in this point in time, and it becomes an exploration of where they are in that moment. And so it's a completely different type of story. And you're right about this. It's not formulaic. It doesn't follow the save the cat formula, which has become very
Yeah,
popular.
it's layered. This is what I like to call onioning. It's like
Yes.
the layers of the onion, and you cannot like they when they do it, it's just one layer, and they are lying to you. Like they're saying, "Oh, there are more layers underneath," and if you just like it's like the that bullshit mystery box of Jar Jar Abrams. I call the mystery box, and all of his mystery boxes are empty, because he doesn't know what to
Yeah.
put in there. So basically, what we're talking about in terms of these like this character, deeper character personalities, this layering of this onioning. It's like you remove the first layer,
Yes.
and then you remove the next layer, and then the next layer, and each layer has like different different aroma, different taste to it, because you're getting deeper to the very core of
Uh-huh.
this character. And that's one of the things which I have tried to write from the very beginning, but I but probably failed a couple of times, more than a couple of times.
It's a
You're talking
complex thing. It's very complex.
Yeah, it's not easy. Yeah,
Well, and
it's
for
hard.
instance, in James' situation, instead of peeling back a layer after layer, he actually cuts a little wedge out, and you can see all the layers sort of in that one little piece.
You know, in a short story, it could be very
that
much
vignette.
different.
Yeah.
That's right. And so it's actually that short form. It's sort of, here's all the layers all at once in this point in time. And so that's very hard to do. And then you have, of course, the long form, which for me is like 9 books and counting, where characters, you finally, like Black Knight say, you peel back the layer and you finish munching up, this one little piece, or you're peeling your onion. And as you get under, you're like, wait, there's another layer under here, and you pull it back and you get to see it. But it takes a while to get there. And I think that when we're talking...
that's the strength of a long form story is you can actually have a whole story arc. As I write short stories, you have to almost have like pieces of an arc. It's something like an expose of
and
character.
You have to pick specific bits. Yeah, I have to fit them like a Lego. Yeah, that's the hard part and the like the easy part and the really hard part, and like the mid part of using different story formats.
Yeah, and I think that because we become, and I hear this sometimes, well, we become so formulaic in looking at the stories that we want, because we see it through the eyes of Hollywood, the eyes of how can we make this into a movie, or how does it fit in the 2-hour arc, how does it fit in the Save the Cat formula, even if it's several books long. How did they wanted to cram it so it will be easily deconstructed by them to be sold in a different form, whether it's on TV or on the movies. And so we lose forms, for instance, like the picaresque story, which travels down the road with a set of characters, and they have adventures, and you discover about the characters as they go through their adventures, like the adventures of Huck Finn, the adventures of Tom Sawyer. They don't necessarily fit in Save the Cat. They don't fit in the modern formulaic, which can be turned into different media, because they are uniquely long form. So when we talk about character arcs, they don't have to follow a formula. But if you are well read in mythos, if you read Gilgamesh and you go start as far back as you can go, and you read the Egyptian stories, and you read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and you read other stories as you go through from all these different cultures and different places, you'll see there are different forms of storytelling, and each one has a different hero arc. And so even as Joseph Campbell made it a little easier that we can read the monomyth, we can look at the hero with 1,000 faces, and he sort of distilled it. But in some ways, he's also made it harder to tell a different form of story, because there are different and variations of the hero's arc that don't necessarily follow that particular formula. And so we sometimes get wrapped around the axle of the character arc has to go this way. It has to follow these exact steps.
But it doesn't. It doesn't always work.
Yeah, if you tell the story that you have, the story that's as it's being written, that character as it exists in you, and you say, I want to tell the story about this human being, and he's going from here to here, or she's going from point A to point B. Where in this story, follow the arc, just follow them where they're going. And if for some reason you have this downward spiral, it's probably reflecting your own experiences in the world. If you had heroes that were knocked off their pedestals in your lifetime, your own heroes, you're probably going to be following that arc of he looked great until he did this thing, and now he's being deconstructed and he's not really a hero. A lot of times that reflects that author. Can you bring yourself to see the heroes around you? And the only way to do it is to actually go out in the real world. As we move away from celebrity worship and politician worship and the people that are famous, when we start to move towards real people, real men and women that you meet that have been heroes all along, the unsung hero, the greatest story never told, go out and among the real people and you meet people that they really were heroes. You didn't know it. You don't know about the real people.
Heroes. Yeah, the invisible everyday heroes.
Yes, there are people that have had extraordinary sacrifices that they have made to save people they've loved. I've known people that would run into a burning building to say, when real heroes exist in the world, they're around us every day. But if all we look to are the people at the very top, if all we look to are celebrities or constructed heroes, yes, they are going to fail, and our literature is only going to reflect that. Meet real people. Go out and meet doctors and nurses and firemen and firewomen, and go out and meet your EMTs. Go out and meet soldiers and sailors and Marines. Meet the people in your world. Talk to your own mom about the heroes in your own family. What does she remember? And then take
You left us hanging. You get over there? Or
Yeah.
should we get back to
you
it?
will find the heroes that you want to write, and you will suddenly see they really were there. There really are good people, and you can write those stories. The heroes do exist. Once we wake up to that, then we start to reflect that in our own writing.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know another thing that we often see today is almost like a celebration of villainy, or a It's not really villainy. I'd say it's a celebration of corruption.
Corruption, yes.
Celebration of corruption. I see a lot of that these
That's a
days.
reflection. That's a reflection of their own corruption.
It is. It's actually it's a voyeuristic, almost like pornography of the soul. As a famous case would be Anna Nicole Smith, who actually comes from my hometown, and just starts off as a sweet girl down at the local, Dairy Queen, at Jim's Crispy serving chicken or whatever, and she's out there doing her thing. She gets discovered, and she becomes a model. Later on, she'll be more or less trafficked to people around the world as they bring her in to go visit sulks and sheiks and other people all over the world. And she becomes a lesson in corruption. Maybe not of her own soul. Yes, she does end up being crushed under it. But as this started to happen, and we saw this with almost any child star, there's an elevation. This person, come look at them. They're so sexy and beautiful. And then we come to watch the train wreck. People will tune in to see a person destroy themselves. You see it with YouTubers where somebody tunes in because a person is humiliating themselves for clicks, or people having an OnlyFans and watch how they've fallen.
Especially these mukbang YouTubers who all eat themselves to death.
Yes, and people don't watch just when they're happy and capable. They come to watch the train wreck. That is a corruption of the human soul, not just to the person to whom it's happening, but to people who enjoy the gossip and the watching of. It could have been perhaps, but to watch somebody selling themselves and to rejoice in it, we become corrupted in it as well. And watching that happen, and it happens in so many of our arts now, where we see this reflected in supposed heroes turning into bad people, or supposed, whether it's male or female. Hey, this is a good person. Oh, look at them. You'll start off with it's now a trope. Here's the church woman. Oh, she's so saintly. Oh, really? She always did something bad. She was always somebody bad somewhere. And they're going to find out, and she's going to be exposed, and this horrific thing happens, and she has a downfall. Well, there's a satisfaction in finding out that fake people and false people are exposed. That's true. There is a satisfaction in having sin exposed. But to arrange the downfall of a person who might have otherwise been a good person, to try to make them corrupt, and then to rejoice in the destruction of a human spirit, is to corrupt ourselves. We have to somehow turn away from that as a society. And how do we do it? We need to write the stories we're supposed to write. We don't want to just go out and go, I've got a moral obligation to write a story about X. That's not what we want to do. But when I'm writing my characters, I can write all of these characters. If I have a big enough story, I can write each one of these characters. I have a character that closely resembles what I just talked about, the destruction of the soul. And she's paralleled Shani, who is a very powerful woman in the universe. Starts off as a person who we would consider to be, she had attained a measure of her heroism. And as one of our secondary heroes, which is Evangelo, finds out more and more about what's happened to her just in her recent past, as she spirals into corruption. To watch it, it's devastating to him. There's not a rejoicing in it, but instead this knowledge of the brokenness of spirit, to see what happens to Shani and what she is doing to herself. He actually mourns it, And at the same time, she has become a villain, a real villain, capable of destroying other people as well as herself and having no compunction in doing it. She will absolutely destroy anyone. She's a true villainess. And to be able to say, oh, here's her story, to say it in the proper way and to still present it in an engaging and intriguing manner. And the real question is not what's going to happen to Shani. Is she ever going to pull herself out? Can she stop the spiral of corruption? That remains to be seen if you read the story. But the real question I had in my mind as I'm writing it is, can Evangelo stop himself from joining her? As much as he loves her, as much as he adores her and wants to be with her, can he stop himself from becoming that same corrupted individual? And will he make that decision to break away and break free and be the man he is supposed to be in spite of his love for her? That is going to be the story. And so we are capable of exploring these themes, of being as deep and being as ambiguous sometimes as we want to be, and to still be able to write a heroic character in the middle of it. It doesn't have to be all darkness and demons. There are real cases of redemption in the world. There are real cases of absolute heroes rising from a dubious background to become legends. There are people who have overcome addiction, drugs, alcoholism, thievery, immorality, and absolute degradation to become incredible heroes, men and women who rise above where they came from. And we need to be able to explore those themes as well. We can't simply keep diving into the darkness. I think we will take everyone down with us if we only explore that.
Yep. The darkness, it's like sometimes it's too much. If we go too deep, just like that saying is, when you look into the abyss, the abyss looks back. That's there have to be balance, and even though I kind of touch on some pretty dark stuff, and oftentimes without like giving explicit details. I have always balanced it with hope and heroism and humor. So otherwise, it's not gonna go well. And the characters, they wouldn't have grown so much during their acts, and the story wouldn't be where it is without that balance.
And that's the the difficulty of it, and why I'm taking my time before I start really tackling those characters, is because it's very easy to lose that balance, and it's a much more complex thing to write these personal inward arcs while being affected by the exterior world. It's not like the hero's journey where you have this huge formula, because a variety of characters can be widely different, and you can put them in a large number of situations to really coax the darkness out of particular characters, or even to have that redemption arc where maybe they go, because we've seen this with a number of characters in a whole lot of literature. You think they're going to be the villain. They're headed down that villainous role. And then somewhere down the road, something happens and they get saved. One that I know of is something similar to this boy show everybody likes, where you have this evil Superman, and it's where there is this evil Superman.
Yeah.
He thinks there is no good. Nobody does good for anybody. He just does this because that's what he does for the sake of this and that. That's what he's known for. This is how he gets paid. And then he sees essentially this horrific event unfold before him, and this person's slighted against, their loved one dies, and instead of killing this person that took their loved one away, he forgives them and he lets the police pull him away. And this superhero, who's like half drunk, is kind of just watching it unfold before him, and he's just looking through because he's seen it unfold 1,000 times. And his sadistic piece of him said, instead of stepping in, I'm gonna see the world without me and let it unfold when no one steps in. And this average ordinary person forgives in front of this hero, and then this hero flies away,
Oh,
And the
wow.
next time you see him, he's saving all these people like he usually does, but every time he gets this dark sensation in his mind flashbacks to that exact moment, and he gets hit with all this guilt, saying that he was never the hero. He had to see what a real hero was before he realized why anybody should be doing what he's doing. And it was like this real short story compacted together to deliver this
Uh-huh.
hero's arc. Like, he's already externally the hero, but then at the end of the
Uh-huh.
story he realizes why heroes exist.
That is absolutely amazing, because that is so much of, you actually see this in people who do this in a real world setting. We see it with law enforcement, with doctors and nurses, with firefighters out on the scene. They get to a place where they're like, it's just the same everything every day. I go out and there's another drug overdose. I know out there's another fire that's lit. It doesn't change from day to day. Every day I go out and do it. Does it really help anybody? They have to see the person that is doing it to realize that no, there really is a reason. When you lose touch with your reason for doing what you're doing, you have to go back and find that touchstone, or find a new one. Sometimes you
Yes.
have to say, why am I doing this? Why am I here? And every person that has lived long enough will go through that, and that is actually the villain turning point. The soft villain, the one that just lets it happen, and just lies down and lets the world destroy itself and never does anything. It said that the only reason, the only way that evil wins is that good men do nothing. And that is the soft villain, the one that allows it to happen. And they may not ever show up on the movie marquee. They may not be in the cast of characters, but if they let it happen just as surely as the villain himself does, because they don't stop it. And when we lose track of why we're doing good, of why we're who we are and what we do, we lose track of our ability to become the hero. And so the same thing happens with our arcs. Our people become demoralized, they become demotivated. In Watcher the Damned, I was actually talking with Daniel P. Riley. He read my newest beta, and he's read the earliest versions of it. And we talked about, this is not really a YA story. Most YAs, we call them, and y'all are young to a certain degree, and especially you, James. Most YA is about us discovering ourselves, what we can be, all that. What happens when you get decades down the road and you've lost that sense of who I am? Who am I? I went through all this. Well, for what? What meaning is it? And he said, it's not really a YA story. This is for people that are 30 and up. They will cleave to it because we've all been through that. For the Watcher to be where he is at the front of the story, he was once the man who did everything. He was that version of, maybe that we'll say, the man of intrigue. He was a hero, but also a villain in some ways. He was very much the mercenary. Now he's not. He's a drug addicted prisoner who's been in chains for decades. Who knows why he did it, but who knows why they let him put him in chains, and who understands why he's doing it, because he loves Abuelita and he doesn't want them to kill her, his grandmother. But he feels defeated, demoralized. His ascension from that place, from meeting the catalyst to becoming a man who will defeat his addiction, and not because he's good at it. Let's say something right here, right now. One of the greatest parts of the character arc is not that the Watcher just gets up one day and says, I will no longer be addicted. He has to have help. The greatest thing he will ever learn is that he does need other people in his life. And he had always lived his life as a man without needing other people. And when he finally discovers this, will be after the fact. It won't be when he's doing it. In the middle of it, he's still going forward. He's moving. He's making things happen. He's becoming the man he's supposed to be. The realization becomes later. And his touchstone changes. Who he is as a man. The killer, the person who goes out and saves people from dangerous men, the one who kills dangerous men. That part doesn't change. But his motivation becomes revealed, and he becomes more than he ever was, because he finally finds his true touchstone. He finds a place in his heart that cannot be overcome through defeat, through years of victimization. He's able to finally find that again. And as each of our characters goes through their arc, the chances are very, very good that your characters that you are writing, your heroes, are actually you, the author. Your heroes reflect you, and you must write them as they're given to you. If you really are struggling with that that gray man who's spiraling towards the grayness, the gray woman, the one that goes past the point of no return and spirals out of control, then you must write those people. But be aware of who you are and what you're portraying, and try to be true to that. I think we lose our authenticity when we don't write characters that we can ourselves speak for, because we if we have that experience, we know. And I think that that's part of the author's journey, the author's character arc. And people don't realize we as authors have those character arcs. We become who we're supposed to be through our writing. And that is part of the story itself.
That's one thing that I often hear from a lot of writers. I don't know. My writing journey is still rather young, going on to
Yes, you're a little
years.
guy.
Right?
Look
Still got a lot of growing to do.
But no, that's the refreshing part. The reason we love
The
stories like that.
growing never
Young people
stops.
discovering the world. Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, the growing never stops. We think we get there. It actually
That's
is. It's one of the
that's
most
the best.
amazing
That's the
things.
best part. The growing
Yes,
never
it is.
stops. That's the best of the best thing ever, because you keep discovering new stuff. You keep changing. But even though you keep changing, your core remains the same.
Mhm.
And that's one of the paradoxes of it all. That it's like, if you to actually fall, you have to like abandon the core of your real self, and then you will fall. Then you will become extremely depressed. Uh, you can even fall into chaos and addiction and other stuff. But if you keep your core, you will grow. It's inevitable.
The character's journey is rarely over, that's for sure. And you know, there's a lot to pull from all of this. And I think we had an amazing conversation. Less than 10 minutes to go, in fact. And I felt like
Yeah.
Dude.
the last hour and a half just flew by. Um, but yeah, guys, like last 10 minutes, what do you want to share with people? I know Black Knight, you're working on some stuff, and you actually mentioned Conan, that you're reading a bunch of Conan articles.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah,
kind of
Ooh.
inspired
yeah.
you. Tell us
I've
some of
been
about those articles.
I've been reading articles on Substack by the man behind the screen and the brother screen, and a few others out of Substack. And I've watched. I think I've watched three videos on YouTube, which are a bit of like encompassing video essays about Conan and the barbarian archetype as a whole. And one I think was mostly that like nihilistic viewpoint of like overly a boring criticism that's like, oh, everything is doomed, you're doomed, like how dare you even like the things that we don't like. You shouldn't aspire to um, these heroic archetypes, and especially someone like
Gee.
Conan, because he's like a representative of toxic this and blah blah blah. It's like a lane. It's a power fantasy. It's like a dumb power fantasy that pretty much only little children and like grown men who have the minds of small children, only they aspire to um, and like characters like Conan the Barbarian, because they have these like violent fantasies that they want to harm people, blah 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 blah, which is of course bullshit. But In
Absolutely.
their minds, in their minds, it's mostly a reflection, a projection of their own insecurities and
Well, that's right. But also, it's a projection of the fact that people who have power don't want you to think you can have it. Those people feel threatened by someone who reads stories about being powerful. They want us to be powerless and to like it. They want us to own nothing and like it. They want us to have nothing and like it. They want us to be nothing and like it. Those who do not want you to have power themselves.
And
So the
even
only
that,
way to
like,
really fight them is to
yeah, go ahead, Snow.
no, the only way to fight people who don't want you to have power is to emulate power, to realize that you can have it, and to strive to attain it, even if it is just power over yourself. Just the simple ability to say, I am a free human being, and no matter what you do to me or say about me, I am still a free human being. I have power over myself, and the rest of you can go to because you can, because I am still myself, and I will be to the day I die. I am in control of me, and you can put me in a
Oh.
jail cell, and I will still be free. Now
And
that is the most dangerous person on earth.
yeah, and that's where these nice articles that I've read on Substack, they go into length about many aspects of not just like Conan, but
There's a lot of them out there. Like especially
Howard's.
like
Yeah,
I was just about to say you said Howard. Like that's kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
Howard's
yeah,
writing
yeah.
style. That's his
Yep, yep,
character
yep,
archetype.
yep.
You see it
Yeah.
in all of them. And interesting thing about Howard is often what you get is not like this power fantasy. It is a power fantasy, but not like they think of this almighty character coming to crush everything, destroy everything. It's a powerful character, often in a powerful world full of things that he has to continuously strive against. I've read a number of Conan books, not too much, but often he comes against things that are more powerful than he is, and
Oh yeah, he
he has to wing
constantly
his
comes at like
at it. He has to
yeah.
think his way out of it or get help from somebody around him. Like, hey, I think if we do X, Y, and Z, we can get out of here, Conan, and use your strength to move this thing for us.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of that throughout a lot of these adventure sense of power, but there's always going to be a sense of anti-power coming in conflict with that, which at times is often greater.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's and you have to remember that there are like cosmic horrors that oftentimes Conan is barely able to like
Hmm.
survive against them, which I have no idea what these so-called critics have read,
They
or if
saw
they
the
even
cover. That's all
yeah
they
they
did. They
saw the
saw the
oh no
cover.
the muscular
They saw
man
the cover.
like and the beautiful woman. Oh no, this is like a simple power fantasy, but that's utter
Yes.
insanity.
Yeah, they don't
It's
read the story.
it's somewhat similar to um a couple of other characters that I really enjoy, and my beloved Sandokan, who is of the
Yes.
almost the same archetype. He's like the noble, quote unquote barbarian, and he's almost always like put in a situation, even though he's like really athletic, strong, almost fearless. He's almost always put in a situation where, if without his friends, like let's say Yanis de Gomera or his beloved um, woman and his crew, or some of the like the headmans of the crew, he would be dead. It's like, yes, he's powerful. Yes, he is like beautiful. He's charming. He has gravitas. But come on, without his friends, he'd be dead, just like Conan. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, that's how you write that character. If you're going to write a character who's relatively the same, you have to surround him with people who are essentially going to be affected by his sameness. So you got to,
yes.
it's more so about the people around him. Same with, right off the top of my head, Solomon Kane, very much the same. There's a lot more characters around him. But with that said, we're about to close out 4:30 exactly. So I'll always start off with you, Snow. Where can people find you?
Find me at watcherthedam.com, where you can read my sci-fi, post-apocalyptic romance western, and it is 9 books in right now. I'm having my 9th book edited while I'm writing the 10th. So Caballeros del Camino will be coming out, I hope, by the end of summer. If not, it'll be shortly thereafter. It definitely will be before the end of the year, as we go into the last season, the next 3 books of Watcher of the Dam series with its definitive end. And it's a real cliffhanger every time, always rolls right into the next book. It is a Game of Thrones level story that has everything you could want, from cyberpunk mutant cowboys to clones to drones and horses and chupacabras. They're all in it. Just go ahead and read it and be prepared to question yourself on everything you've ever believed, and then find everything you ever loved about heroes.
Yeah, sounds super exciting. How about you, Black Matt? What do you got coming up?
Oh wait. Well, this year I'm supposed to. I was supposed to um, work on something else, but I was kind of sidetracked, and in a good way. And as you know, my very first 100% fantasy novella is completed. I'm just doing the last like bits of editing and waiting for the cover. So the Lord of Bones, that it should be available
Ooh.
sometimes later this summer. Um, I hope, and of course you can find all of my uh, 11 plus books which are set in the Star Shattered alternate history universe on Amazon.
Yay.
Plus all of the nice stories in the two anthology short story collections, which of course you can also find on Amazon. The first one is A Mandate of Sword and Railgun. The second one is The Blood of Tyrants. So if you like alternate history and old school pulpy sci-fi with lots of different really purely heroic archetypes and villainous archetypes, and all sorts of monsters, ghosts, and even techno magic, you could very well enjoy the Star Shatter series.
That's definitely a most excellent series with plenty of books to get into, because I know that's what people want, which both of your series has. Now, I am a short story writer. I am writing my first novella right now, which is Glimmerleaf. Hopefully, it should be done and ready for the editing process
Yay.
by the end of next month. That's what I'm aiming for. And I'm
Nice.
hoping to have it released on my Substack by the end of the year. You can see everything that I'm up to on my Substack at worldwithoutendlore.substack.com. And with that, we don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for joining us, but we are out of here. Time for us to hit the road.